Hi everybody! Today I'm going to show you effort-wise probably the easiest way to get a decent amount of bone meal with the composter. So with the composter you can convert a large variety of plant-based items into bone meal, and the efficiency of the composter depends on the material you feed into it. So for example, you need on average 35 melon slices to get a single piece of bone meal. Some items are even worse in that regard. For example, you need about 70 sugarcane to get a single piece of bone meal, and some items are better. For example, you only need 7 pumpkin pies to get one piece of bone meal. And as already mentioned in a snapshot video 2 days ago, the melon slice route is probably the most efficient way to get bone meal with the composter, because you would create the least amount of lag by using a melon slice farm compared to other ways. For example, if you would make a villager-based potato, carrot, or bread farm, and also the amount of effort you need to put into building a farm is probably the least. So here in the back you can see a huge melon farm. I'm just gonna turn it on, also to demonstrate how laggy it would get. The farm itself is pretty simplistic. So we got hopper minecarts stuck in iron bars that are moved with a flying machine. So we harvest the melon and also instantly pick up the melon slices to stuck hopper minecarts. I've shown a similar concept already for Minecraft 1.12 and just adjusted it slightly to make it more efficient. Because one of the problems you have with a farm of this size is that the hopper minecart only has a limited amount of storage space. You can only pick up 320 items. So in order to combat that problem, we put the flying machine in the middle of the farm. So basically we fly to the right first, then the flying machine will dock back into the station. The hopper minecarts will rest on those hoppers and will be unloaded. Then after a certain amount of time, which is controlled by this hopper clock here, the flying machines are sent off in the opposite direction and basically do the same. So in total we have a farm the size of about 200 by 200 blocks. In total there's 16 flying machines to go back and forth, and we would get about 300,000 melon slices with this design. We can also check how laggy it is. So it is now this MS ticks display now in the F3 menu, and currently my game is running at 20 milliseconds per tick. I've noticed that for some reason there's actually a huge variety when it comes to those numbers. I've seen it go down as low as 10 milliseconds, and I've also seen it go up to 40 milliseconds per tick. Not sure where that is coming from, but after a while the numbers pretty much even out at 10 milliseconds per tick. So you would, my system, about 20% of the computer performance needs to be spent in order to run this melon farm later. I also tested the same farm in Minecraft 1.12, by the way, and there it's significantly better. It's just 5.5 milliseconds per tick, so it would only use 10% of my the performance of my computer. Right, so anyway, let's check out what happens next with the melon slices. Under the hoppers, of course, we have composter blocks. They convert the melon slices into bone meal. So in total we got about 100 composters, and then one single hopper chain is enough to basically bring all the bone meal to one storage. So since we get about 310,000 melon slices per hour, this would convert into about 8,800 bone meal per hour. So what can you do with a bone meal supply of 8,800 per hour? It's actually quite a lot. You could run a decently fast universal tree farm with it. So depending on a tree type, you would get about 8,000 to 12,000 logs per hour, while the melon farm fully automatically supplies the tree farm. If you would go the 2x2 spruce tree farm route, you could get even more logs per hour, so it would be feasible to get 150,000 logs per hour with this bone meal supply here. Depends a bit on the tree farm type, how efficient it is, but it would be possible. So we could actually run a decent amount of farms with it. Of course, you can also use it for a huge mushroom farm or sea pickle farm, etc. It really depends on how many items you can get per bone meal. So you need to adjust the rates of your farm if you want to supply it 100% of the time with this farm here. For example, if you would try to build a nano farm in order to get a wheat supply and you would build the melon farm for this, then yeah, this wouldn't even be fast enough. So nano farms can use 20 to 30,000 bone meal per hour, so this wouldn't even be quite enough. But if you would spend all this effort building a melon farm to supply a wheat farm, might be better off building a wheat farm in the first place, I guess. So as we've seen, lag-wise, a farm of this size is definitely an option to supply a tree farm, for example. So we can check again. Now we're down to about 10 milliseconds per tick. I'm quite sure the lag we had in the beginning was caused by the amount of items. So if the farm rests for a while, of course, have more melons grown and then hopper minecarts can't pick it up all. So you need to wait until those items despawn. And at some point, the farm gets more lag efficient because almost all the items will be picked up. Right, now we can also discuss if it makes sense to build a farm of this size for a tree farm, for example, to supply it in terms of effort. So it's definitely an option. It's definitely nice that it's fully automatic and don't need to do any crafting. So it's definitely something I could imagine you do in Scicraft at some point, just because it's nice to have, I guess. But yeah, in case you can build a skeleton farm, it's probably better since you also get a ton of other drops from a normal mob farm. So probably better off when it comes to effort, just build a skeleton farm and convert the bones into bone meal. You can also take a look the amount of effort it would take to build a farm of this size. So you need to place down about 40,000 dirt blocks. Depends how efficient you are and if the terrain is prepared. This could probably take 8 hours, I guess. Next, you also have to hoe about 20,000 of those dirt blocks, which probably will take also another 2 to 3 hours. Then you also need to place 20,000 melon seeds, which probably also takes 2 hours. Then also need to prepare the water sources in order to make the farm more efficient. You could use it without water, but that halves the rates. So you definitely want to place down water. Then the flying machines itself, probably not even that much effort, maybe 2 to 3 hours, depending how much experience I have with building those. So we look at about 15 hours building this farm. In that amount of time, you can definitely craft a lot more bones into bone meal. But yeah, it's not always about efficiency. It might be just more interesting to build this farm than spending 10 hours crafting bones into bone meal. So it's definitely an option to use a farm like this to supply a tree farm. So in case you're interested in building this farm, I will provide a word download and video description, and also within the next week I will make a separate video tutorial showing you how to build this melon farm exactly. Alright, one more note, you need to AFK in the middle of the farm because of the random tick range, which was introduced in Minecraft 1.9. I got a lot of suggestions in my snapshot video what to do instead of using melon slices in order to get plant-based bone meal, and I quickly want to discuss the other options. So I got some suggestions to use, for example, sea pickles, flowers, or even seagrass in order to get bone meal, but yeah, you need to spend bone meal in the first place in order to get those items. For example, the sea pickles, per bone meal spent in an efficient layout, you get 5 sea pickles. But on the other hand, you need 14 sea pickles to get 1 bone meal back. So we definitely run a deficit if you have a layout like this. Then the next suggestion is using a villager-based crop farm. For example, potatoes, carrots, beetroot, or even bread. This is definitely a viable option, but it's more laggy than using the melon farm. So in order to get about 10,000 bone meal per hour, you need about 140,000 potatoes per hour, which means you need about 140 max-sized villager crop farms, which depending on the farm would require about 280 villagers, and that alone is causing more lag than the melon farm. So it's definitely an option, but not quite as lag efficient as the melon farm. Same problem also with the lag with the kelp farm. Can get a ton of that stuff really easily, but it's causing quite a lot of lag. We don't have the lag issue with the cactus farm, but making a cactus farm that yields quite as much as the melon farm would require a lot more effort. So that's why I would definitely prefer the melon slice farm. Using pumpkins instead of melons is not a good choice. You get more bone meal per pumpkin put into the composter, but the pumpkin yields fewer items. So you get 5 melon slices per melon harvested. Well, you only get 1 pumpkin, of course. So that's why it's not as efficient. So if you would convert all the melon stems into pumpkin stems and run the same farm, you get only about 4,000 bone meal power. I also want to give you some numbers how much bone meal you can get from your iron farms, because you could use the poppies, which previously was just an unwanted side product and often got destroyed. So per village you get about 10 golems power, which converts to 40 iron power, but only 10 poppies power. So that means you get about 0.71 bone meal power if you use the composter to convert those poppies. Not too much in case, for example, you have a 32 village iron farm. You could expect to get 1 double chest of bone meal per week if you play on a server and the iron farm runs straight. So this is 168 hours of a multi-village iron farm running straight. So this is definitely not too much. It's definitely a nice side product, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's not like you could rely on this really for your bone meal supply, in my opinion. Alright, what's also definitely interesting is another route, the brown mushroom block route. Another interesting approach would be using tall mushrooms. This was added in the B snapshot. In the A snapshot, you couldn't convert the normal mushroom blocks into bone meal of the composter, but this was fixed, and now you can do so. So unlike the sea pickles or flower farm, you would actually make a plus if you bone meal brown mushrooms and convert them into blocks. So it doesn't take a lot of bone meal actually to grow a brown mushroom. Usually it's about 2 to 3. And you get about 50 blocks back per brown mushroom grown. But this is only the case if you don't restrict the height of the brown mushrooms. You can grow to any size up to 13 blocks high. In the usual brown mushroom block farms that were made in earlier versions, usually the height of the brown mushroom is limited to a certain height to make it easier to work with the farm. But if you don't do so, then you would actually make a plus by harvesting all the brown mushrooms and putting in a composter. But yeah, this is definitely a nice idea on paper, I guess. But yeah, compared to the amount of effort you need to put into a melon farm, this is probably not worth it. Since you require a player of a silk touch axe that harvests the brown mushroom, and the farm generally slow, it also would be really complicated to bring the brown mushroom towards the player if the height is not completely limited to a certain height. So this is definitely interesting, but yeah, it's probably just better to build a small melon farm instead. And last, of course, it's a nice idea to use byproducts of certain farms. If you run a nano farm with wheat and you get some seeds back, you can definitely put those in the composter. Also, the additional seeds you get from a flower farm, which are not needed, could be recycled this way. Or also, if you run a villager-based wheat farm, you could add a hopper minecart below that picks up seeds. It's definitely an option, but yeah, it's just a little bonus on the side. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.